I'm Sandra Parker. People are often afraid to experience emotion because they're afraid to be overwhelmed. But I have an equation. Emotion plus anxiety equals overwhelm. If you can manage anxiety, you can avoid overwhelm. A lot of times people say that they're concerned about dipping their toe into the water of emotion because they're just going to get carried out to sea. They're going to drown. They're going to be taken somewhere and never set foot on land again. Essentially what they're talking about is a fear of overwhelm. That if they feel, they won't be able to function. In fact, I remember one of my clients having said that to me one day. Sandra, you don't expect me to feel and function, do you? Well, yes, in fact, I do. But how can I expect that? Well, because I am going to teach you the Parker Theorem. All right, this is a very important equation. Einstein had E equals mc squared. I have emotion plus anxiety equals overwhelm. Emotion plus anxiety equals overwhelm. Anxiety is a spike, signal anxiety, being very precise here, not pathological worry. Signal anxiety, the experience of vulnerability, the felt sense of vulnerability in the body is a spike. It's a feeling of alertness that comes in the body. It's a little bit constrictive. It like holds us a bit. And that spike goes up. And if I attend to my body and pay attention to myself, it comes down. Emotion is a wave, not a spike up and down. Right? It goes up, goes down, I'm in the same place. A wave goes up and down, and I'm in a new place. Emotion is part of this whole physical world that we're in. Emotion is very physical. It's biological, it's biochemical. It moves through the body, in the bloodstream, in the breath, in the muscles, in the tissue. And like everything else in nature, it follows a wave-like function. Right? If you think of physics, everything's waves and particles, waves and particles. Emotion is a wave. So the frequency of emotion, this wave-like frequency, is meant to flow in that wave-like way. It just does, up and down and in a new place. However, the frequency of anxiety, this spike that goes up and down, is a different frequency. And when those two frequencies clash, the wave does not get to flow the way it's meant to. It actually gets stopped, and the vibration of the anxiety actually makes that energy of the emotion become overwhelming. We cannot be carried by emotion when there is too much signal in the mix. This is really key. It goes back to that message that I have given before, which is that we have to be safe enough to grow. Emotion grows us. Anxiety is a sensation of vulnerability. We need to take care of the anxiety first. Okay? Safety first. All right? We need to take care of the anxiety first. So what we need to do is we need to be tracking signal anxiety in the body even as we're feeling an emotion. And if signal anxiety gets up above a threshold of just minimal, moderate, manageable, if it gets above that, you've got to leave that feeling for a moment and come back to this spike and take care of the sensation specifically of anxiety. Now this takes a certain amount of sophistication because you've got to be able to know what signal anxiety feels like in the body, and that's where practicing listening to your phone call, locating it in your body, experiencing it slowly really comes into play, because the more familiar you are with what your signal anxiety actually feels like, what your communication from the body actually feels like, the quicker you're able to recognize, oh, my anxiety is going up. Okay, I think my anger is just getting me a little bit. I'm going to have to put that to one side. I'll get back to how mad I am, but first I've got to take care of this body that isn't sure we're safe. All right, and as I attend inward, the body comes down. I can go back to this anger that I need to feel. Right? And if, as I continue with that wave of anger, the anxiety starts to spike, I come back again to the anxiety. So anxiety first, anxiety first, anxiety first. We take care of the anxiety. Then, as that's low enough, we can let that wave carry us to where we need to go. If they're happening simultaneously, the Sandra Parker Theorem, emotion plus anxiety equals overwhelm. And the river gets too high, it floods its banks, I'm overwhelmed, and now I'm not being taken anywhere. That wave's not taking me anywhere, I'm just this messy, wet mess, right? So I actually am utterly accountable for tracking the anxiety, prizing the anxiety, taking care of the anxiety first and foremost, and then going to the emotion. And I may need to move back and forth between the two. I think of those old westerns where the hero is actually taking two horses wherever they need to go and they're galloping along. And the anxiety horse needs to be behind. And if the anxiety horse starts catching up to me, I've got to jump off that horse and get onto that horse and whoa, Nelly, slow that one down. And then I can jump back onto the anger horse or the sadness horse or the joy horse and gallop ahead. Right? But if this one starts to catch up again, I got to do that clever cowboy trick and slow that other horse down. The anxiety must be back. It must be back. It must be well behind the emotion. Right? Anxiety plus emotion equals overwhelm, and that will not lead to growth. I take care of the anxiety first.